Hi guys, it's Fee, and I want to start by saying that you guys in this TTC community are really amazing. I recorded my first vlog ever last night, and I come home from work and I open my account, and the whole first page is people that subscribed, people that commented. I was almost in tears like I am now. It meant the world to me that a bunch of people that barely even know me cared enough to listen. So, now that I have that out of my system, um, I decided that I would try and expand a bit on my background with the TTCing and how my husband and I have gotten to where we are today. It's a bit of a story, so hopefully I'll remember everything that I want to say and I won't get lost in here somewhere. Um, okay, so my husband and I have been married for 11 and a half years. I am 34 and he is 45. So when we got married, I was 22. And for the first 3 years, he was ready for children and I wasn't. And I had every excuse under the sun, a plethora of excuses that I really don't have a reason for. I think the truth is really I wasn't emotionally ready at that time. And while I didn't want to admit it, I come from a pretty interesting background, to say the least. And for a lack of better way of saying it, I really think I was just afraid that the messed up parental genes that I came from would be passed down to me somehow. Ridiculous, I know, but I can't go back and change the way I was thinking when I was 22. That was quite a while ago. However, at that time, if it was up to my husband, we would have had a child to celebrate every year. I mean, he would love a football team worth of kids, really. So when I did agree to start trying, I was on the pill for about 5 to 6 years. So I'd went off of that, and my body really didn't appear to be affected by it. There was no problems, and there was no outward problems, at least. But we really didn't dive in head first right away. Neither of us knew, all the tricks. All we knew was to do a lot of baby dancing and pray for the best. And that's about what we did, but I think somewhere in there we knew something must have been wrong that was out of our control. But I think we were just in denial. We just didn't want to think about that. About 3 years ago, I did go to get tested on my own. They didn't really find much wrong, but the two hormones that they test for initially, the names escape me. The doctor said they were just slightly off. I wasn't quite ovulating as well as they would have liked, but no really big problems. Now, I don't know if this is weird or not, but they didn't do any other testing after that. The doctor immediately wanted to put me on Clomid and Prometrium just to get the ball rolling. And the problem is at that time, and kind of even now, I've never really been much for optional medicine. And that was my excuse. I didn't want to put all of that stuff in my body if I didn't know what the deal was on both sides of the fence. So I wanted my husband to go get tested. With that knowledge, I would definitely be willing to do whatever was necessary to make this work. But I really wanted to know what we were dealing with. Well, my husband wanted no part of testing, to say the least. The first response I got for quite a while was an angry response. And I know that's kind of common with a lot of guys. but even the thought of it just didn't go over well at all. And more recently, it did come out that it wasn't anger, it was fear. Fear of unknown. Fear of what they would find, fear of being broken, fear of being unfixable. And, I can't say I blame him, because I know how he feels now, but more on that later. But at that point, so nothing came of any of this. He didn't go for the tests, and I didn't fill the prescriptions. About a year went by after that. We were TTCing the entire time, and nothing really came of it. But at that point, I finally started doing some serious research. The bug had set in, I guess you could call it. At least that's what I call it, because I'm a program analyst by trade. So the problem with research is once my brain gets started, it's very hard to turn it off. It's an obsession sometimes when I want to do the research on something and I want to know everything. And sometimes that can be a good thing, and sometimes it can really work against you. Because, at first most of the stuff that I found was all the scary stuff. Problems for infertility, reasons for infertility, the ones that were uncurable, numbers, studies, and all of the heartbreaking stories that just scare the tar out of you. All of the reasons why they tell you not to do research on the internet. It's exactly what happened. I was scared stiff. And then people started getting pregnant around me. A lot. Like a whole bunch of people all at once. Coworkers, friends, family. And I think I was really handling infertility well until that point. I mean, either that or I was burying my feelings until that point. I don't know which one. But I couldn't do it anymore. It really started to break. I even had a friendship temporarily change on me because the friend had gotten pregnant after about a little over a year of trying. And I just couldn't handle it. For the first time in my life, I felt weak, and I couldn't do anything about it. I had a lot of questionable feelings towards people that I think only women going through infertility understand. And a lot of the TTC videos I've seen on here, they really make me feel normal now. And that really helps, because for a while there you really start to question some of the oddball feelings that are going through your head. I was wondering if I was, the crazy one, or if I needed to be fitted for one of those cute little jackets that fit on backwards. And at that point, I think something woke up in my husband. I think he saw me breaking. And I don't know, without stating my whole life story here, let's just say that life has thrown me a lot of curveballs. And I've always managed to find a way to hit that ball out in the outfield somewhere. Make lemonade out of lemons, no matter how many times the lemons were handed to me. And I just couldn't do it this time. And I think that really scared my husband. It was something he'd never seen before in me, and he couldn't fix it. And he's a fixer kind of guy, so I think that's what did it. And it's unfortunate that that's what it took, but, I'll take what I'm given. And he did finally admit that, his fears of being tested. But he did finally say he would go. And I went with it. But at the same time, I had something really weird happen to one of my cycles. And I mean, talk about Murphy's Law for both of these things to happen at the same time. I didn't get AF. Now, let me state, my cycles are pretty normal. Prior to that happening, I think the last time I missed an AF coming, I was probably 12. Really, no exaggeration. You can bet the ranch on AF showing up with me. Very, very regular. So, of course, what's the first thing you would think? You're pregnant, right? No. I tried 4 different tests, 4 different brands. All of them were negative. Stark white negative. And I was really confused. I mean, if I wasn't pregnant and I didn't have my period, what was going on with me? So, back to the doctor I go. And after only 1 missed cycle and no other outward signs of anything being wrong, they did a blood test followed by an ultrasound. And the blood test found that my hormone levels were way off. And the ultrasound showed numerous follicles that were just sitting there. They hadn't released. So I wasn't always ovulating. And with those signs, they told me I had PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And the doctors were visually taken aback that that's what the problem was, because they said I didn't have any other signs of PCOS. Now, I've yo-yoed with my weight since I was 24. It's went up and down a lot. But that really was the only possible sign of PCOS that I had, to this day, actually. So the first thing they did was they put me on Provera for 1 cycle. They said they wanted to force a cycle to make sure that my body was producing enough estrogen to get pregnant in the first place. And I gotta tell you, I don't think I have ever prayed to get a period that hard in all of my life. It was torture. But, you know, thankfully it worked. AF did show. And on day 1 of that next cycle, they put me on metformin, which I'm still on to this day. I was told that there's no cure for PCOS. They don't know where it comes from, and sometimes it's genetic from the mother's side. Sometimes a mother or sister will also have it, but even that's not for sure. The only thing they do know is that women with this also tend to have a high blood sugar level, but they're not diabetic. Insulin resistant, I guess, would be the way to describe it. So they put you on a diabetic drug, metformin, and the concept is that they're hoping that if they lower the blood sugar levels, that the hormones that are out of whack will then ensuite even out to where they belong, and then you'll ovulate. Or at least that's the way I understand the whole concept. And of course, out of the other side of their mouths, they're telling me sometimes it can take up to 6 months for metformin to actually regulate you. And at the time, I'm thinking, wow, 6 months. That's crazy. But I got lucky. I got ridiculously lucky. And it only took 3 weeks with me. My very next cycle was regular again. And they said I got lucky because it was caught so fast. They think I have probably had PCOS all of my life, but for whatever reason, the inconsistent cycles didn't show up till now. Like, you know, the hormones were slowly going out of whack, and they, you know, hit that breaking point, and that's when this happened. So that very next cycle, I was regular again. And it was even really easy to tell when I ovulated. The OPKs were pretty dark at around cycle day 14, pretty consistently. And I had a lot of the other, telltale signs of ovulation. In the meantime, my husband did go for some tests, and he doesn't appear to have any count problems. Thankfully, that was quite a relief. But there are viscosity issues and round cell issues in question. So the abnormalities weren't through the roof, but they were present, and there was 2 of them. And at that point, we finally had our answers after how many years. And I gotta tell you, it really did make us feel any better. Some people feel better knowing why, but that's not me. I feel better knowing a solution, and there really isn't one. That's the part that sucks. There really isn't a solution. There isn't a schedule or a deal they can put us on to guarantee anything. I've always said that if someone could tell me that if I do all of these things, if I do A, B, C, D through Q over the next 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, I pick a number. It really doesn't matter to me. But if you tell me if I do all of these things over this set amount of time, and even if you tell me, hey, there's going to be a lot of bumps in the road, and some of it's really, really going to stink, and some of it's going to be really emotionally trying, but in 3 years or 4 years or 5 years or whatever number that we've chosen here, I'll get pregnant, I'd be like, hey, sign me up. Sign me up. No matter how much that road stinks, I can do that. I can handle that. Give me the best you got. As long as I know that light at the end of the tunnel is there and no one can turn that light switch off, I'm okay. But that's not the way any of this works. So it was really hard not to get discouraged because it felt like we had a lot of hurdles. I wasn't always ovulating. Yeah, they appeared to solve the problem with the medicine, but, there's always that voice in the back of your head questioning things that it shouldn't question. And the voice at that time was saying, how long is this medicine going to work for? And one of these days I'll figure out how to turn that voice off, and I'll be that much better. So on top of the ovulation in question, we had the issue that the swimmers might not always be getting to the goal line because of high viscosity. Essentially, picture it like they were trying to swim through honey. That's kind of what the idea is there. And even if they were getting to the egg, if the egg was even there were a number of swimmers that were around cells. Now, I guess you could picture those as like immature or sperm without tails. So it was all pretty overwhelming. It just sounded like a lot of hurdles and a lot of problems, one after another. So this is where we've been for a while. We haven't tried IUI or IVF. I was about to be put on Clomid with prometrium progesterone a few months ago. February, I believe, is what it was supposed to start. But something stopped that I kind of hit upon in my first vlog. But I think I'll save that story for my next vlog. Because if I don't, this one's going to get really long really fast, and I won't have anything to talk about next time. So that's all I've got for now. Hopefully that gives you guys a better idea of who I am and where I'm at and how we got to where we are in our TTC journey. Thanks for listening, and I'll try to be back soon with the most recent chapter that I have. Thanks again.